All right, so this is Violent Night. This is the newest action movie. It's kind of like Die Hard. It's got some Home Alone in there too, but with Santa Claus. And it's directed by Tommy Wirkola. I'll say how I feel about it in a second. So David Arbor plays Santa Claus. He's not really into it anymore. He's getting drunk at a bar in the beginning, and he's thinking about this being his last Christmas. Kids are greedy. They just want this, want that. So he's thinking about not doing it anymore. So he gets to this mansion, and the Lightstone family are in there. And the character Scrooge, played by John Leguizamo, takes over that mansion while he's in there. And he's not able to get away because of certain things that happen. So at first, he's frantically trying to, get away. But the little girl in that family, Trudy Lightstone, played by Leah Brady, starts talking to him through a walkie-talkie. So he decides, because of that little girl, to actually save that family. So I thought this movie was good. It's good for what it is. I mean, it's got some things that I didn't really care for, and we'll get to that in a second. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's shot well. I didn't expect it to be shot as well as it actually is, but it's a good looking movie. David Arbor's really good in it. I think he plays Santa just about perfectly, at least for this version of Santa. I wish there was a little bit more development, but there is some history that they go into with Santa that I thought was actually pretty good. And there are some clever moments with it being Santa during the action scenes. The action scenes are all exciting and they're well done. They have decent choreography and things like that. They're very violent, as the title would suggest. There's one part, this guy gets stabbed with the star that you put at the top of the Christmas tree, and then his head gets set on fire. And it's like, wow. There's even a part where, like I said, Home Alone, inspired, it might be an understatement. I mean, it just straight up turns into Home Alone for a little bit with this little girl. And yeah, it felt like you were fully ripping it off to the point where it was like, all right, this is a bit much, but it was still a fun scene. I will say there's a lack of, I mean, before going to negatives, there's a lack of development, I think, with Santa. There's this thing with Mrs. Claus. Maybe there's some issues with their marriage, but you don't really you never get to see her, and you don't get into that too much. Like I said, they go into his past, but not enough, I don't think. It's to the point where there's a disconnect with me actually thinking that this is the actual Santa Claus because they don't really go into a lot of it and they don't fully go into why he's so jaded about Christmas, things like that. There's some development that I think is a little bit lacking here. And logic. um, there's a lot that you have to go with because you know there's a big thing, and I'll get to that in a second. But people that he's killing, right? People that he's fighting, he's so obviously using like magic, right? Like a guy will punch at him and his hand will go into his magical bag. He's just pulling things out of a bag that looks like it doesn't even have that much in it. And there's a part where he's fighting people. He's fighting one dude in particular early on, and he's just not even reacting. He's just still fighting him like normal. And I was like, okay, there needs to be at least a moment where he's like, whoa, what the hell? Is this guy the real Santa? But that doesn't really happen in that fight. But the big thing, and this is for a lot of Christmas movies where Santa is a thing, like he exists, but people still don't believe in him. If Santa was real, people would know. It's there's a point where the parents are like, oh, Santa's not real. It's just something that parents tell kids. The parents buy the gifts and they just put Santa on it. Santa's real, right? Santa's been around for all these years and things like that. They say that in the movie. People would know. People would know. I mean, even when he goes to this mansion or whatever, they're still awake. Like they're in the living room. Like people would have had to have caught him. You would see his ranger in the sky. Plenty of people would, right? In the age of smartphones and people can take pictures and things like that, people would have caught him on their phones more than likely. It's a stretch, and they really go far with that, with people not believing he's Santa and not believing in Santa, and it's like that doesn't make sense in a world where he actually is actively delivering gifts. Parents have to notice that there are gifts there that they did not buy. I mean, it's just that goes with a lot of things like the Santa Claus, where it turns into a custody battle, a court case, or whatever, with Tim Allen, with him saying he's Santa and all this. It's like it doesn't work with movies like this. So it's not even just on this movie, but it's a pretty big thing. And I was like, it's a bit distracting. The dialogue, for the most part, I found the movie funny, but the dialogue, it's a rated R movie, so it feels like it needs to, cocksucker. They have to kind of motherfucker, fuck you, fuck that. They have to constantly cuss because they have the R rating. At certain points, it's funny, but tone it down a little bit because at points it was like, okay, this is forced because this is a rated R film. So the dialogue at points didn't work there. But then also, especially with John Leguizamo, they keep kind of beating you over the head with the Christmas theme, where everything is Christmas themed. His name is Scrooge. All the people working for him have like Christmas themed names. It's all about, oh, it's time for me to go open my present, or it's like time for me to go get my gift, or whatever. It's a lot. It's like when you have a movie about cats and there's a bunch of cat puns, or you have a movie about fish and there's a bunch of fish puns. Things like that, where it was getting kind of on my nerves. For the most part, though, I did think it was a lot of fun. I thought it was funny. I liked the characters. The acting is all good, other than that little girl. I don't think she was very good, but I guess she's passable for child acting. But you know, I liked it. There were clever moments where he sharpens up a candy cane and stabs somebody with it. I mean, the action is a lot of fun. It just is. I had fun with it. With a dumbass premise like this, when I saw that trailer, I was like, this looks really dumb, but I'll give it a chance. And I ended up actually liking it. Not loving it. I don't think it's great, but it is definitely good, especially for what it is. I think it's a good time at the theater. I definitely recommend it. But anyway, that's Violent Night. I'm giving it a good enough, and we're done.